Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Dad Talk today. Really quick before we get started, tonight's show is going to kind of continue off of what we was talking about last week. Last week, we had the return of Dad Talk. It's been a minute, and it was about one of these situations that I've been involved with for a very long time that I want to bring awareness to, because I don't think it's getting enough awareness, and I don't think people realize how much this is happening and how serious it is. We're going to be talking about, parents that are going through family court custody cases, and they are having to deal with their ex telling them that their children is transgender and surgeries and stuff like that. So we got a very special guest on here tonight, joined also by Dwayne Moore, but Mr. Pat Catalano. Is that it?
That's it. You got it right.
Awesome, man. So it's actually a very cool to be on the screen with somebody that I see down in the comments all the time.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I've been listening to you guys for years now.
Yeah, man. And shows up just about every show, but I knew just because, the people that watch the show, they're not just people that watch the show. We get emotionally attached. And I feel like there's a brotherhood there. And I've seen what you've went through. So as I was talking to Jeff Younger and I saw your name pop up, I was like, we got to get him on the show, man. Pat, is this something that you've been able to talk about publicly yet?
No, I haven't. It's been, so I want to thank you right off the bat. Not only am I honored to be on the show, but just to be able to tell the story, that's been bottled up. And you guys know how that feeling is, right? It's been bottled up. Yeah. And as you go through these things, it's been 4 years for me right now, right? And, obviously not as long as Jeff, right? But 4 years. And as you guys have gone through court battles with custody and, family court, that you lose friends along the way because people are like, dude, I'm just tired of hearing it, yeah. And I get it. Yeah.
I do too. And it's, it's really hard to find people to confide in because if they haven't been through it, they don't understand.
They don't get it.
Yeah. And it's very heavy subject matter, even for us that have been through it, hearing it all the time, it can really wear you down, but it's also one of those things that you can't give up. You got to keep pressing forward and making sure you get the awareness out there. And for somebody that hasn't been through this situation, I'm telling you, it is a lot bigger. I was talking to somebody earlier today about this and told them, hey, I got somebody else that's going through that similar to Jeff. They was like, are you serious? There's more than one case? Let me tell you, there is a lot more than one case. Yeah. That's why we wanted to do this. But before we get into that particular situation, Pat, you was going through parental alienation in the family courts. Tell us how this whole thing started, and how you got into family courts.
Yeah, definitely. So this story is gonna anger a lot of people because even when I tell it now, I get ticked off because a lot of it is. Really? That happened? No, it happens, right? Sure. So a lot of it, and I'll try to give. I know I've listened to you guys long enough to say, hey, what's the 5-minute elevator pitch for your story, which is so hard to do, but I'm going to try to do that so I can set up the background so you guys all know where we're at. So in 2018, my daughter's mother and I split up. Now we were never married, and in Illinois, as a dad, you don't have rights to your kid right there. So you have to go to court and fight for that. But it all started out really cool. There were no issues. Mom was like, yeah, we don't have to go to court, this and that. We split everything 50-50. I mean, I'm going to say it. We did right. Okay. And it went down the right way. I was able to see my daughter whenever I wanted. We only lived a few blocks away from each other. At the time I was like, I'll move out. You guys can stay here. I wanted everything for my daughter to go smoothly with the transition, but Mom's like, no, I'm going to move in with my sister and brother-in-law. And that's what she did. So I stayed in the house, and I'm like, I'm going to keep the place. I'm going to make sure that, when my daughter comes over, her room is still here. Everything is good. And everything worked out perfectly fine for the first couple of years until I started seeing somebody, right?
What?
How dare you, right?
What?
Okay, now you're taking me off.
So in late 2019, early 2020, my current wife, who's a godsend, she's a saint for putting up with it. Because that's another thing that people don't understand. This affects everyone. It affects all the way down the line to your whole family, especially if you get remarried or anything like that. So I started seeing Lisa, my current wife, and that's when I started getting text messages. Hey, dad, she can't be around our daughter and blah, blah, blah. All this stuff started. And I'm like, you know what? Relax. I'm not that stupid to bring someone around, even though my daughter knows her, because big surprise here. And I always joke around and say, this is the Jerry Springer moment. But my wife grew up in the same neighborhood as my ex. Her brother's good friends with her brother. I mean, we all know each other because we grew up in the same neighborhood, right?
I mean, it's common. Yeah.
Right. So, but she just got pissed off. And by the time September of 2020 rolled around, I decided, and my wife were like, hey, we should have done this a long time ago. So we decided to get married and go with it. Right. I sat down with my daughter. Yep. And, I had to talk with her, and I said, this is what Dad's going to do, and this and that. And at the time, she was just about 11 years old, and said to me, Dad, as long as you're happy and Mom's happy, that's the key right there. As long as you're happy and Mom's happy, I'm happy, And I said, you're going to gain a stepbrother, a stepsister, and I do have a son who's 26 years old, is going to be 27. I was married very, very young and stupid, although my ex-wife and I are good friends still on to this day, and so is my wife. We had no issues with my son. So I have a 26-year-old son, a 27-year-old stepson, and a 21-year-old stepdaughter. So I'm doing something right? So after she went home with that information to Mom, my phone blew up. If you effing think that what's going to be, F you. And so I'm going to try to keep it PC. But, that's kind of how it went down. And I was like, what's your problem? I mean, it's been 2 years. I can move on with my life. It is what it is. And
no, you can't.
No, I can't. So what happened at that moment, this is where the alienation started, right? She was only allowing me to see my daughter now at this point, after that information went to Mom, 3 hours on a Thursday night in my car, only in my car. And remember, we're in the middle of COVID, and I was able to have her before that. We had every other weekend. We kind of set up a really nice schedule. We didn't have to go to court for that. We just did it ourselves. We split bills 50-50. Everything was cool. But then there it was. You can only see her for 3 hours, because I say so, on a Thursday night in my car. So we would go order a pizza. All right. I know, Eric, we always talk about the pizza. We go order the pizza, and we'd sit in the car in a gas station parking lot, eating our pizza and having conversation. And it was heartbreaking. I couldn't, and I did that for probably about 2 months, because come October was her birthday. And I started talking to people, and I'm like, dude, you got to get an attorney. You got to go to court. I'm like, but the thing is, I had so much proof. The text messages, she started emailing my then fiance, now wife, F you stay away from my daughter. I have it all. I mean, if I joke around and I tell people when I tell this story, if this was a murder case, I got the video of the guy shooting the other guy in HD, clear as day, where you can say, yeah, it's Bob. He's the one that shot Joe. It's that clear. She was sending messages. She was texting, fake text messages to my brother-in-law, all kinds of stuff, right? Sending anonymous letters to my church. So at the time, my wife and I both, I was playing guitar in the church band and the worship team. My wife was working all the media and stuff like that. So we were really heavily involved with our church, where my daughter was also going to. She was going to Awana Club, and she was doing all this. Yeah. And the funny part about that is I got involved in this church because of my daughter. So her mother put her into Awana Club years before. And when I was going through my cancer battle back in 2015, I had cancer, and she asked me to come to church, and I was kind of checked out with God for a while there, angry with the cancer thing. And I started going to this church, and I was like, this is really cool, because I grew up Catholic, and this was a non-denominational Christian church, and I'm watching a band, and I'm like, I'm all about that, man. So that's pretty cool. And again, I got involved. I started playing. So 6 years I've been playing in this band there, and everything was working out pretty cool. But now I couldn't take her to church anymore either. So she started writing letters to the church. Everyone knew where this was coming from because they knew what was going on. I confided in my pastor, explained to him the things that were happening. And when they got this anonymous letter that Pat and Lisa are these horrible, sex fiends and ruining marriages, and it was hilarious, but we knew where the letter came from because it was stamped and postmarked from the area where she works. So I'm like, okay, that's obvious, right? So that's where I said, forget it. I got to get the attorney. Now the bomb drops here. As soon as she got served with papers, I got that text message. You're never seeing her again. Oh. And that was it. And she basically kidnapped her from me for over 3 months. Wow. And what she did was blocked my phone in my phone number and in my daughter's phone. Right. She basically told her, Daddy doesn't love you anymore. He left you for Lisa. If he really cared about you, he would be here. He's not here. Now I've heard a lot of other dads say this, and moms too, that go through the same thing, right? I'm not going to, not say that moms don't do either, but I had a video. My daughter used to do videos all the time. She wanted to be a YouTube star, and all these kids want to. And I was like, yeah, you're too young, but we could start doing some videos, and I have hundreds of them. So I was doing a video one time. We were sitting in the car, and I asked her, why can't you come to my house? Why can't you, we could go, why do we have to sit in the car? Well, Mom says Lisa's unsafe. There's that word, unsafe. Your house is unsafe. I can't, and I have to trust Mom. I said, no, of course you do. I understand, and there was, no solid answer other than unsafe. And I have all this recorded, right? So I have all these things that Mom's throwing me under the bus and saying all these different things. And I handed all that over to the attorney, and they're like, $5,000, man, we're in and out, because you've got it all right here. I know Dwayne's just shaking his head. Yep. No.
Lambs to slaughter.
Yep. So 3.5 months or so go by. I got nothing. And the killer about all of this was during Christmas, the holidays, right? Again, I've said it, and I'm going to repeat it 100 times. It's not just me who's hurt. It's like I'm an adult. I'm 53 years old. Beat me up, take my money, whatever. I will rebound. Okay. Right. I survived cancer. I'll survive this. But man, my son doesn't get to see his sister. My mom and dad don't get to see their granddaughter. Right. My cousins, my family, nieces, nephews. You're affecting the whole line down, right? And that is the biggest problem. And that not only hurts me, but now you're hurting, the kid is getting, messed up. And that's where my anger comes from. It never comes when people say, Dad, I'll pray for you. I'm like, don't pray for me, pray for my daughter.
I'm curious while I'm listening to this, why you're getting kept away from your kid. Did she ever go to your family and say like, hey, you can see, the child, but he can, or try to turn them against you? Sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. I just want to ask.
let me go there. There was quite a while where she would show up at my mom's house. Now, my mom and dad are in their 80s, right? My dad just got diagnosed with Parkinson's, so it's even harder with this whole thing. But yes, she went to my mom and, oh, Pat this, Pat that. And man, you know, my mom and dad are off the boat Italian. Okay. So right away, my mom was like, they're calling me, screaming at me, and you're no longer welcome here. I did not speak to my mom and dad for 2 years.
They believed her.
They believed her right off the bat. So my brother, he had to get involved, and I finally talked to my dad. My mom she's an old Italian lady, man.
Italian.
That's it, man. You know, and you know, I was always the black sheep of the family. You know, you got to start it there. I had, you know, hair down to here, rocker, this and that. My mom was like, "Oh, you know, you're a bad boy," right? Right. So she believed her right off the bat, and she went more or less because she wanted to see her granddaughter, right? Yep. I did catch one time. I called my mom, and she didn't hang up the phone, and I heard her and my ex talking, and I was like, "Oh, wow!" She's like, "Yeah, he doesn't have to know when I come here," and blah blah blah, going on and on. So, yeah, that was pretty much. But my dad was the savior in all of that, because I did get, you know, I talked to him and I said, "You know, Dad, I love you. You know, I'm your son." I'm like, I know you know, hey, nobody's perfect, man. I've made mistakes in my life, you know, but I said, if I'm going to tell you the truth, I'm telling you what's going on right now. And he turned around, you know, and he had a serious discussion with my mom. And, you know, my mom saw the light of day because enter the transgender part of this whole conversation. Wow. So, and I know I sent you an email, Eric, about how I found out my daughter was a boy or transgender from the Guardian ad litem. So
I want to hear all about it, dude. I kind of perused over it just a little bit, so I got the details. Cool. But I like hearing it at the same time as everybody else.
Yeah,
so, yeah, man. Tell us all about it.
So what happened was, once the court got involved and we got into the court and everything like that, the judge appointed a guardian ad litem, and he was appointed pro bono. Right. So that lasted a couple of months or so. But he was appointed pro bono, and the guardian ad litem was supposed to call me and, you know, interview mom, interview the child, interview me. So I got a call probably about a week or so. He went to mom and my daughter first, right? Yeah, right off the bat. Then he calls me. I must have spent 5 minutes on the phone with this guy. And it was interrupted 5 minutes. Oh, excuse me, call my phone's ringing, this, that. And he said to me, after I explained to him, kind of quick elevator, hey, this is what happened. She took her away from me. This is crazy. I just want to spend time with my daughter. There's nothing. I mean, they have nothing on me. The only thing that they were using was my wife is unsafe. Your wife is unsafe. Well, my wife has FBI clearance. She used to work for the government. You know, she's certified by DCFS to spot child abuse. Can I go on? Right? I'm like, find something wrong with my wife. But see, my lawyer said, Pat, when they find nothing wrong with Lisa, they're turning it on you. And I said, they got nothing on me. Well, they don't, but what they do have is, I'm a Christian, I'm conservative, you know, I'm down the line, whatever. I'm all to each his own, but leave the kids alone. That's where I'm at. That's where I stand with all this. So they had the guardian call me, give me, you know, just a little bit of his time, and he half listened to me and then said, well, thanks for your time. I just wanted to see if you were the monster that you are, that, you know, they say you are. And he's like, you know, it's got really nothing to do with all this stuff about your wife. Your daughter is transgender, and you're a homophobic racist, transphobe racist. And, you know, it's more complicated now. So it's your daughter that doesn't want to see you. It's got nothing to do with mom. And that's where the ball dropped. And I said, excuse me?
Yeah, drop that bomb on you.
Yeah, like what? And now, and I've said this a million times. There was never a sign of being transgender. There was never any talk of it over the years. I mean, I was there the minute this girl was born. We were like two peas in a pod, man. We did so much stuff together that people would always say, who's the mother? Because she would never go anywhere with us. I mean, I hate to say that, but it is, right? We went to motorcycle shows. We're both music. She's a singer, so she loves music. She was around my band all the time. We went to festivals, Comic-Cons. I mean, I had every year we went to Comic-Con. We got the 3-day pass. She wanted to start cosplay. She was mini me. She was a mini me, and we had that close relationship, but mom hated that. Right. So, so right when the guardian got involved, that's when that started. And what really angers me is in the very beginning, I wasn't even allowed to speak in court, not a word. So this went on over and over. They allowed me to finally see her at the end of January, early February of 2021. And I had left all my Christmas stuff up. I had, all her gifts and everything. So we had a decent Christmas, but my wife couldn't be around. It was only for just my daughter and I. So I felt bad because now at this point in time, we have my wife running out the back door while my daughter comes into the front door because she can't, she's unsafe. Yeah. But this was the guardian's idea. And it did put it's like, come on, it's ridiculous, right? But we did that for a while. I was only able to see my daughter at that time on Saturdays, only for, I think it was like 4 or 5 hours, but because I was unsafe, there was no sleepovers, there was nothing. So that's all they gave me for close to a little over a year until I finally started screaming, because here's the other sad part of all of this. I started noticing weight loss. So we put an emergency order in. The judge threw it. He's like, there's no emergency here. I'm like, no, there's something wrong with my daughter. She doesn't look right. I don't know what's going on, but she's so pale and thin. And now they turned and they used COVID against me too, right? So, the evil Trump guy that doesn't wear a mask. And, I'm like, what? And she would
shouldn't
come
even
over.
be something thought about.
No, shouldn't even be a thing, right? Whether or not I'm a Biden supporter, a Trump supporter, or Obama, well, it doesn't matter what my political views are. But the problem is that he's conservative, he goes to church, so he must be a Trump supporter, he must be this, he must be that. And they made it a very, very high point, the Guardian did, to let me know that he was very, very left. He was a Democrat. I'm like, well, why do I care, bro? Why do I care about that? And what does that have to do with my daughter and me seeing her, right? So sorry if you hear airplanes. I live right by O'Hare. Anyway, so the funny thing is, I'm seeing all of these things happening with my daughter, and I'm emailing the Guardian ad litem. Now, over a course of probably 2.5 years, I emailed him about 22 times about all this insane stuff I started seeing. My daughter reading like sexual stuff that her mom was letting her read, and watching shows like The Circle on Netflix and all these different things. And I'm like, what is going on here? Right? This is crazy. We always had rules about social media and things that was all blown out the water. So now that mom is living with her sister and brother-in-law, who are completely, far left, right? So they had nothing but an agenda to, do whatever it is that they wanted to do to me, by hurting me, by doing whatever they were doing to my daughter. Because I found out my daughter got a book called Spin With Me. And guys out there, anybody here? Yes. So this book is called Come Spin With Me.
Yeah.
And this book, right? So her niece, my ex's niece, got this book from my daughter, because my daughter was left alone a lot at this house without any, parental supervision, hanging out with the niece, and the niece was buying her these transgender books. And then they put her into this transgender club at school. And it's really odd to me too, because I mean, the schools, man, it's Chicago public schools. It is what it is. I thought, we're going to be pretty safe because I live in the neighborhood I live in. It's all cops, firemen. It's pretty conservative neighborhood, but it doesn't matter. I started talking to other parents, because I was always involved with the school. And they're like, yeah, we just took our kid out of there. No, our kid, we're taking our kid out of there. And there was a lot of that going on, right?
Yep.
So she read this book, and then she came to me and said, I'm going to change my name to Oliver.
Ollie. How old is she?
Yeah,
at this point?
that was one of the questions.
12 years old.
12.
Yeah. She was about 12. Yeah, she was 12 years old because she turned 12 right when I filed for the paperwork. So
reading that book.
Yeah.
Right. Can you guys explain to me what that book is? Because I saw the look on your face, Dwayne. I'm not as familiar with that, but obviously that's something that's, Can you tell me what's all in that book?
It's I don't know if you've read the summary of it, but it's talking it's the transgender. It's okay, and it's a good. Basically, putting it all in a positive light, and the people understand you, and the journey, and all that.
Right.
So similar to, I forget that Netflix show that they had out that a lot of the kids were watching. That afterwards it gave you a "Am I gay?" test.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were parts of that. Yeah, it's definitely not a book that a 12-year-old should be reading.
No. Yeah. So they gave her that book plus others, because then they put her in a book club with
of course they did
transgender book. Yeah, exactly. Right. So she was inundated with all of this stuff, and came to me and said, I'm changing my name. And I'm like, so where I was sitting at this time, I was afraid to say or do anything because
right.
I here I am. I'm going, hey, look, parental alienation. Right. You can't say that. It was like the Wizard of Oz, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain because it's transgender. It's transgender day. And this is what we're going to talk about. It's got nothing to do, but look at all my proof. No, sorry. They didn't look at it. I mean, they did. I'm going to tell you right now, they all looked at it and said, shit, man, we got to come up with something because this guy, he's got you dead to rights. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't see anything here. Yeah. I don't know why you're trying to, do whatever and all that. Yeah.
So we went through this whole, changing name thing where mom right away went to the school. They socially transitioned her. The guardian ad litem, my attorney had said to me, find a therapist right now. Make sure you get a therapist lined up. And I did. But what do you think happened? He can't pick the therapist.
Right.
But he knows he can't pick the therapist. So then we did a blind thing, we're like, okay, we'll pick one, you pick one. And then somebody, that's not really involved will take the kid to both of them. Well, what ended up happening is one of my friends was chosen to take my daughter to both therapists. So he took her to the one I chose, which was like right by our house. And when it came time to go for the one that the guardian handpicked, it was only online. So she doesn't have to be taken there. I'm like, you don't think she's going to know whose is whose? Come on, man. Yeah. So the guardian handpicked this therapist that's right out of college and right away affirmed my daughter and said, yeah, your dad's a monster. If he doesn't believe this, because that's what they're doing.
I mean, for people that aren't aware of this, I want to make sure, for people that might be tuning in for the first time, we just had Jeff Younger on last week, whose son was 7. And when he would drop his son off at school, they were putting him in a wig and a dress, and his name was James. They called him Luna. You had a school that played right into it. That's one of the scariest parts of this. That's the place that parents used to be able to trust with their kids when they were off at work. And now it's become nothing more than an indoctrination camp. It's not education. It's indoctrination. And with the divisiveness that we've got in our politics right now, sending your kids to these institutions is very scary, man. I mean, but having to make a living, especially in this economy, that's a lot of those kids are going to that school and then they come back home and you don't even recognize them. But one thing I wanted to ask you, Pat, now I'm going way back, but it was
Sure.
something I wanted to ask while you was talking about this. That time when you was talking to that guardian ad litem, and for the first time, you have this stranger that's telling you that your daughter that you love, that you've been helping to raise, is transgender. At that point in time, what's going through your head?
Oh, I knew right away. I mean, at that point in time, I wasn't shocked because this was something I was new, right? I didn't know. I was like, what are you talking about? I literally was, what are you talking about? Oh, yeah. This is opening up a whole can of worms, something different, So it's actually your daughter who doesn't want to be with you and doesn't want to see you because, you're a homophobic racist. And at that time, that's when I really dug into some support groups. I think that's right around the time I really started watching you guys and started learning about what's going on. But you guys couldn't even really talk. I remember, Eric, you were even like, you didn't even want to say the words back then, right?
I wanted to. I wanted to,
right.
But I knew that if I said what really needed to be said, that I would lose my platform.
Yeah.
And if 100%. You lose your platform, I mean, they did a really good job at making sure that nobody could speak out about this. I don't agree with the guy on everything, but I think once Matt Walsh put out What is a Woman?
Yeah.
And more people said, hey, we can talk about it now. And then you've seen some of the other stuff that's coming out. People are really starting to push back. I mean, we just saw what went on with the Olympics.
Yep.
And now we've gotten to a point to where males can get in there and compete with women just because they identify as something else. And I mean, somebody's going to end up getting seriously hurt. These conversations are so ridiculous, man.
It's already happened in the Olympics. They had the volleyball player that was smashed in the head. She has brain damage now.
Jeez.
That
really?
Just happened about a week ago. Yeah. Actually, roughly the same day. Yeah. They were competing and got smashed in the head. She has brain damage now. And actually the guy was kind of laughing about it as he walked away.
I can empathize with you guys so much because going through family court alone is a nightmare. Especially as a father. It is just an absolute nightmare. But now you add this on, which is a whole extra layer of complexity. And as a father that might say, I know my child's not that way. If you say that, you're automatically in the wrong, transphobic, homophobic, racist. You get all those different labels.
It's all there. Yep.
You're not even allowed to talk to your child and say, babe, are you sure? I mean, you're just not allowed to say anything.
No, you're not allowed to do anything. And the funny thing is that the next step of all of this was getting a psychological evaluation, right? So there's 10 G's, right? You get a psychological evaluation, right? So we pushed for that because at the time, even my attorney was like, okay, we know, Pat, we know what's going on, but the guardian ad litem's against you. He's just against you. I mean, it's all it is. I mean, at the end of the day, even today that we're still going through this, right? I literally have court in a couple of weeks. We're still going through this, and it's because of him. And I will always say that because this guy could have looked at the evidence I handed in and said,
it's not about the evidence.
Man, this is right.
It's not, dude.
Never going to happen. So it's all about the money because, like I said, he was put in place pro bono, but within a couple of months, this guy's like, no, here's the bill. And I was like, well, you got to be kidding me. And the judge they didn't care. He's just like, yeah, go ahead, get paid.
You already had the hook in the mouth.
Yeah, exactly. He saw, I can let this drag out for years, and they have. Yeah. So we got the psychological evaluation, and this is where it ties into What is a Woman. So I'm glad you brought that up because as much as I could rehearse the stuff in my head, I'll forget something. So we had the psychological evaluation, lasted 7 months. The woman came out. First it started on Zoom because of COVID. Everyone was freaking out about COVID. We had a meeting just one-on-one, kind of told her the story. Simple. Hey, here it is. Here's all the proof. I handed her everything. Here's all the text messages. Because people tell you, save the messages, save everything. Yeah, okay. I gave her everything. You laugh because it means nothing. Yeah,
that's all. Money.
So I hand her everything. We have the conversation. I explain here, this is where we're at. And she comes back with when the psychological evaluation report came back. All I got was an email from my attorney. He said, well, man, it is what it is. So,
Were you allowed to read it?
I did.
Oh, wow. They wouldn't let me read mine.
Really?
For my kids. Yeah, they refused.
Well,
because it showed what was going on.
Well, let me tell you. And usually I'll drop an F-bomb here, but they effed me so bad that they wanted me to read this. They wanted me to read this. So the evaluation, they talked to me, they talked to my wife, they talked to my daughter, and they talked to my ex. Even though she asked me for other references, which I gave her references, tons. I have friends who are military. I have friends who are gay. I have friends who, all walks of life. I'm a Freemason. I have a lot of Masonic friends. You name it, man. I got my boss, my ex-wife wrote a letter to the Guardian ad litem. My son. I mean, they just ignored it all. But anyway, so the report read like this in a nutshell. Pat thinks this. Lisa thinks this. But mom says this, and the daughter says this. And because dad doesn't use the proper pronouns and continues to misgender and my favorite of all time, dead name his daughter. It's like, whoa, how dare you evil man. So because of that, my daughter would be in the category of committing suicide if she spent any more time with me. So then what was the heartbreaker, and I'm a grown man, and I'll admit I cried when I read this part, the report my daughter gave to the psychological evaluator. My daddy says Donald Trump is nicer than Joe Biden. Never said that, but whatever. Why is that in there? My daddy would never let a black man in his house. When we watch TV shows, my daddy says, why can't we just watch shows with white people? I can't eat at my dad's house because there's rat shit everywhere. All kinds of stuff. Now, remember, the Guardian ad litem never met with me. I never met the guy. I had that 5-minute conversation with him, never talked to him again. He just continued screwing me in the background, right? The psychological evaluator did visit my home. She was here. She literally stood on my front porch and said to me, so where does mom live? Now, you guys are going to love this. I said, across the alley, 6 houses down. She goes, what? I'm like, oh, yeah. And I can't see my kid 6 houses away. She goes, man, I'm going to do everything I can to help you. This is not right. Oh, yeah, I'm not lying to you. Hand on my brother's grave. That's what this woman said to me. And when I got that report and I was reading all these things, I was like, my kid just throw me under the bus? What is this? And yeah, so it was hard to take
$10,000 for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I paid for that.
You paid for it. I mean,
yeah, I paid to get screwed.
Dude, those psychological evaluations are nothing but a scam. I know of people that they've made do it like 3 or 5 times. Right. It's like by the same person. It's like $10,000 each time. How many are you going to get? They get your financial statements when you first go into family court, and they know what they can milk you for. And there's going to be no solutions. They're going to run you out of money, and then basically you're screwed. You need to settle, or sorry, guy. Either come up with more money, or we're through with this.
We're through with it.
Yeah. That's exactly where they do. Todd Ashley said, where in Illinois? Where at in Illinois was this?
Crook County, baby. Chicago. I'm in Chicago. Literally. I know. Crook County. That's it, man. I can't, my attorney said one thing to me that will ring true besides hey, when they find nothing on your wife, they're going to come after you. We're standing in front of Daily Plaza, and he said, if you think anyone in that building is going to take the truth and take the facts and into consideration, he goes, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah. So someone had a question here. I don't know if it was that. Okay, is your kid being told they are trans? Is the rest of the family members, or any of them, telling your daughter that she's confused?
So here's the funny part. Here's where their story falls apart, right? So nobody in my family calls her by her fake name, which I say fake name. I don't even do it. Now, my wife, and God bless her, she's like, Pat, I have to, because I don't want to be the reason why this kid doesn't come here. Right?
I understand that.
Do I cringe every time she does it? I'm sure she's in the other room listening. Sorry, baby. But I cringe because I'm like, that's not her name. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I understand why she does it, and I love her for it, because she loves this kid like she's her own, right? My son refuses to. My mom and dad don't. My none of my family do. Now, when you go over to mom's family, and I found this out later on because we were supposed to go to trial at some point. Turns out that mom's cousin, who's a Chicago police officer, and she's also gay, married with two little girls, sends her girls to Catholic school, got a hold of me and said,
it's been a while since I've been in Catholic church.
Right. I don't know, but okay. I'm just saying, right? But she reached out to me and said, mom's nuts. She's nuts. She's like, none of us really agree with this. So to answer your question, the only people that are playing along is mom, the sister and brother-in-law that they live with, and the couple of nieces. That's really it. Okay. Actually, mom's older brothers have looked at my daughter and said that, no, we're not doing that. We're not going to play along with that. Sorry.
I mean, that's a good point, man. I mean, there's a lot, they call it LGBT, the alphabet community. Right. But a lot of the gay community, they don't go for this.
They do not, man.
They do not stand. They don't stand behind it at all. I'm curious. Has there been any talk about surgeries for your daughter?
So, I just came back from the doctor's office with both of them, my daughter and mom. So, yes, there's been talk about top surgery. There's been talk about hormones, puberty blockers. Mom put a binder on her without, and now here's something that's very important. I don't want to skip over. I did get it's probably about a year ago now. I did finally get a parental agreement. Now in the parental agreement, I got 50-50 everything but time. I got all the decision making, which I know they can't stand because I'm at every doctor's appointment. I'm everywhere. I am everywhere, man. So yes, to answer your question, they've talked about that, but this is a surprise. But the reason why is not a surprise to me is because I know deep in my heart, and I know the guardian knows she's not trans. I know that they're using this just to keep my daughter from me. I have a court order that says no transitioning, no hormones, no nothing until she's 18 years old. So why would anyone who's actually transgender allow something like that in a court order when that's your whole point. Your whole point of keeping me away is because I don't agree. I don't use pronouns and I don't use the fake name, I dead name. So why? But I did. I sold my soul basically for time. So I still don't get to see my daughter. I see her on Thursday nights for a couple of hours, but we have family therapy, which I kind of made that happen. So I get to see a therapist with her, which is awesome, but I'll get to that part too. But her family, doesn't really agree with any of it. So they have this whole, everything I've learned going through support groups with transgender, I have learned that if you are trans, and it maybe happens when you're an adult, that it's, whatever it is, but it's very, very rare for women, to want to be men. It's more or less men that want to be women, right?
Right.
But if you truly, truly in your heart are like, hey man, I'm in the wrong body, this is not who I am, you would be, there's no way I'm getting a court order that says I can't do this, I want to do this, the whole 9 yards. So I do have that, and I do have the decision making. So as of this moment, mom's breaking court orders and I'm not getting anything out of it anyway. The judge doesn't care. The court doesn't care. So, but they have a binder on her. And I've talked to the doctor and I said, I have 50-50, decision-making, medical decision-making. That's, to me, I don't care. That's child abuse. You're a growing kid, right? You're a growing kid going through puberty. you can't be binding, this child. The problem I have on top of that is that now my daughter almost died last year. Okay. So, and this adds another spin to this whole thing.
Yeah.
When remember I mentioned earlier that I knew something was wrong. There was a problem. She was losing weight. Nobody was paying attention. So in the spring of 2023, I really, really noticed it. She was not feeling well. She started almost passing out. So I took her to the dentist because mom wouldn't take her to the dentist. And she had a cracked tooth that she had in there for almost 2 years. I was like, I told the dentist, pull the tooth. I hold the health insurance, by the way, right? So I'm like, I'm taking her. I don't care. Got her teeth cleaned.
Yeah.
Had that cracked tooth pulled, and then I took her to the immediate care to find out why she's getting dizzy, why she's not feeling well. And they kind of took me to the side and said, she's underweight. This is what's going on. So right away, I write a letter, email to the guardian ad litem, put all the attorneys on there. I said, this is what's going on. I want my daughter to go, to the doctor. So mom had taken her to the doctor in January. This was March. I get a report from the doctor. The doctor's report says, identifies as he, wants a sex change, has an eating disorder, and we'll see you in a year. See you in a year. So, yeah, wow. Right? So I had that reaction, and I said, no, someone is seeing my daughter now. So in our family therapy, I talked to the therapist, and I said, hey, listen, I know you'd see something's going on. You need to bring it up in therapy. So she did. She's like, I would listen to your dad. I would go see a doctor. I don't like the way you look. You're always tired, and unmotivated. We got to do something. So to make this a very long story short, I ended up picking a eating disorder doctor specialist, right? Mm-hmm. At a hospital right near us. And I guess mom had no choice at some point because her attorney must have said, hey man, just take them, take her there and be done with it. So we went, and the doctor's like, yeah, she's 86 pounds, man. No. So she's 14 years old. Say that again. Eric.
Yeah, Eric, you froze there. So I think it's probably just shocked that the 14-year-old girl that's 86 pounds. Yeah, you froze there, Eric.
You froze, Eric. Go ahead. Say that again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What age was she, Pat, at 86 pounds?
14 years old.
No
yep.
way, dude.
4'11", 14 years old, 86 pounds. So here I am. Now I'm livid, right? So we go to the doctor. The doctor says, we're going to try in-home, family-based care and therapy. So she basically lays out a plan. Here's what you need to do. I need you to come back here every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks I need you to gain, a pound a week. I need you to start every time you come back. I'm going to weigh you. Now,
come to my house.
Yeah, right. Right. You know what I mean?
In a second.
So, I only get her at this point. I was only getting her on the Thursday night for a couple hours in therapy. So I can't feed. There's nothing to eat. It's after dinner. I get her late at night,
right.
6 o'clock. And then every other Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. at that time it was 11 a.m. on Saturday to 9 p.m. on Sunday with just one sleepover because I'm still unsafe. Right. So that was, I'm like, what do I do with 4 days a month? In all reality, the doctor's like, not much. I'm like, okay. So I look at mom and I say, what we have to do something. Keep a log. Let's see what she's eating. Let's go through. I'm like, look, whatever, and yeah, whatever. So I'm like, I'm sitting in a room with a doctor. We're talking about facts. We're talking about reality. We're treating a little girl here. Okay. Right. Let's stop. And even the doctor said, hey, look, transgender, we're not going to worry about that right now. We're worrying about your health.
Right.
Because she told my daughter, you can die. This is not good. So fast forward to the week before she was hospitalized. We were in there. She got down to 80. She was 86 pounds, down to 84 pounds. And because she lost more weight. Now the doctor said there was going to be no, extracurricular activities. You're going to sit at home, you're going to eat, and you're just going to sit there. And I'm like, can I have that plan? what's right? What's up with that? But you know, she's a singer, you know, and you know, I have her in School of Rock and stuff. She's an amazing singer. You know, I get it. I'm a musician. I would hate to take that away from somebody, but you know, it's like you got to stop for a little while. You got to get your health into order. But nah, she was up on stage, jumping around, carrying equipment, doing all the things she wasn't supposed to do, barely eating. Right. So at the end, the doctor looked at her and said, if you guys come back next week and there's no weight gain, she's going in the hospital. Mom, no, it's completely against it. And I looked at the doctor. I said, at what point do we call child services? And mom looked at me and said, F you, grabbed the kid, ran out of the hospital. So we came back 2 weeks later. Surprised she showed up. And man, forgive me, it was a shit show. Crying, you know, it's all your fault, Dad. You brought me here.
4 hours.
This is because of you. And the nurses, you know, I walked out into the hallway and I broke down, you know, and their nurses were crying. And they're like, Pat, you know, we know what's going on, you know, and they're like, they're not going to let her go home with that woman. She is not going home with her. She's going to be in the hospital. We're going to try to talk to her. And they said, if we call child services, it's going to backfire on you because this kid cannot stand you right now.
Yeah,
I get it. Okay. So in she goes after they took mom in another room and, you know, whatever they had to say, they said, you know, they probably told her, hey, you're going to get locked up or so. I don't know what they told her, but she came back in, you know, with her face, and we got her in, and she was in the hospital for 6 days. She had intensive, you know, feeding basically, right? So she had to eat 3 meals and some snacks every day. If she didn't finish the meals within a certain amount of time, you had to have a shake. And if you didn't finish that shake within 30 minutes, you got a feeding tube. And that kid did not want the feeding tube. My heart broke. You know, I sat in the hospital every day. You know, work was awesome. They're just like, hey, man, say no more. You know, cancel your meeting, do whatever you got to do. Be there with your little girl. I was there every day. Yeah. I was. Okay. Yeah. Mom would show up at night. Mom's older brother, who threatened to kill me, by the way, I got one of those too. You know, I got threatened, you know, for whatever. He showed up one time and tried to have me thrown out of the hospital. The nurses were like, this guy's going nowhere. The dad's been here every single day. They're like, you can go in and see if he allows you to. So not being an ass, right? I looked at them. I said, yeah, okay, let him in. It's fine. But I'm standing right here by the door and I'm not leaving till he leaves. And that's that. 6 days. Then the social worker said, we have to put her in intensive, you know, therapy, you know, like a live-in, you know, rehab type place. It has to happen. She cannot go home. You know, she will relapse. I had a doctor stop me in the hallway. So my daughter had her main doctor and then her doctor's boss. Her doctor's boss, who ran the practice, came to see me and started handing me phone numbers for attorneys. And I'm like, I already got one. Thanks. She's like, that little girl cannot go home with mom. I said, I know that. I said, but I'm a father. We are in Illinois. I'm not getting anywhere. Okay. So she went in 65 days in rehab. Of course, you know, there was a therapist there and they had to go, they went with the fake name and all this stuff, you know, and we tried to sit down in family therapy. Now, one of the biggest things that happens with a parent like this, you can't get a word in edgewise. The minute truth starts to come out of your, just facts, you know, because like everything, you know, everything like, they talk over you. And then the person that's there, I feel for them because they're like, hey, enough. I don't want to hear anymore. Stop. Now you can't get your point across. You can't get the facts out, right? You're the bad person. And I'm Italian. My heat goes up a little bit. And it's like, you know, enough, because I'm watching my daughter suffer. Now I almost saw her die. Okay. Now I see her in the hospital. This is not what you want for your little girl, you know? So we did that. And then after the 65 days in the inpatient, she did the rest of the year up until the day before Christmas. She was released. She did what they call IOP. So it's in and out. You go there for 12 hours, then it's 6 hours, back and forth. And she got up to 110 pounds. It's doing good, whatever. And so now I go into court with a new agenda. Hey, this kid's unsafe being with mom. Okay. She almost died under mom's watch. So I handed so the doctors didn't even want me to go to court to get a subpoena. They're like, Pat, here are all our records. Yeah. Here's all our notes. Do what you must, right? I handed all that in. Not a peep from the guardian ad litem, because I don't know about anybody else's court system, but here, what I've learned very quickly is the judge will not read one damn thing you give them. Nope. They listen to the guardian ad litem, and this guy he just turns the other cheek. So he had all that information, did nothing with it. Nothing with it. I'll take a breath right there.
Does your daughter, does she present as a girl?
Oh my God. Yeah. Acts like a girl. You know what they say, if it talks like or quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, right? I'm going to tell you, and I don't know how good it'll work right now. I'm going to show you. I know you put up a older picture, but I'm gonna show you basically a very recent picture of her. And it's funny because I spoke with her regular family doctor, and I wanted her to understand, don't look at me funny when I say she. You know what I mean? And don't look at me because I understand how these doctors work, and I know a lot of them are pressured to go along with the transgender.
They'll lose their job.
They'll lose their job 100%. The only therapist that my daughter has seen, the court appointed one, she just goes along with the whole thing because that's part of the agenda. But our family therapist, because when I was this court appointed therapist would never give me updates, never talk to me, because I'm the evil father, right?
Right.
Even though I'm paying you, but you're not giving me any information, right?
Yeah.
She told me one time, well, I can't do any of that. I said, you were court ordered to restore my relationship with my daughter. Well, you'd have to go to family therapy. I said, oh, thank you, I will. And that's how I got my family therapist. So we've been seeing her for about 1.5 years. She could tell you right off the bat, my daughter's not transgender. She knows I'm being alienated. But does the guardian ad litem speak with her?
Of course not.
I have my own personal therapist I've been seeing for 4 years. She wrote a report. Do you think the guardian ad litem read that report in court?
No,
of course not. So all of these things that would go in my favor, the guardian would just have to speak up. He does not speak up. So, but as far as my daughter, the way she, you guys are going to laugh. So right now, this is currently, hopefully this can show, is what my daughter looks like. That look like a boy to you?
No.
Okay. That's how she dresses.
It's like Joan Jett.
Thank you. That's what I said too. She was like Joan Jett. So now, she's seeing this boy, good Christian boy. And what's funny is because, we all live in this neighborhood. I know mom. I know the mom, the kid plays guitar in her band. And I I laugh because they're not, we're not dating. No, we're just friends, because if they are, then it blows out this whole transgender thing out of the water.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so she, like I said, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. The only time the transgender thing is pushed and really forced is if I screw up and say she or something. It's now it's he, because it all started with pansexual, bisexual. I mean, she went down the whole rainbow, right? And now she's a trans. Now I'm a boy. She told our family therapist, Dad needs to acknowledge, wrap your mind around this one, fellas, that I am his gay son. Yeah, I can't add that up.
Yeah, and think about that for a second.
Yeah, I'm his gay thing. Right. Yeah.
gay because supposedly you're a boy that likes boys.
You're a girl. So whatever.
Right.
I'm his gay son.
Okay.
That's what I've been told. Yeah.
I told my wife I identify as a lesbian.
There you go. I don't know.
Pat, I got some questions in here for you, man. Father X said, when the guardian announced your kid was trans, did they bother to set up a meeting so you could discuss it with your kid directly?
Zero. Nothing.
Wow.
Yep. I never met with the guy.
One, and I don't want to scare you. I'm sure we got more questions here, but and on the heels of Jeff Younger's case, and you know what happened in Texas to California,
right?
I mean, I don't know if you can think about the question I'm getting ready to ask you.
Yeah.
What happens if?
Well, I'm going to tell you, you know, I haven't even up until now, and I will never bash her mother because I don't want that to be, like I said, we all know what's going on. I don't have to bash her. You know, I mean,
right.
she bashes herself, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. But I will always hold that, you know, respect for my daughter that, hey, it's your mom. It is what it is. Because even at this point, I never went to court for full custody. I just want 50-50. But we all know, you know, you don't get child support out of 50-50, blah, 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 right?
All right.
But the one thing I will say is, remember I told you in 2018, she moved in with her sister and brother-in-law. It's what? 2024? She's still there. She ain't going nowhere. Yeah. She ain't going to move to California. She ain't going to. No, because look, she's probably blowing all of her money, dumb enough, on her attorney. Because when we went through all of our financials, my attorney said she's paying nothing. No rent, no car payment. What's going on? Right? Yeah. So she ain't moving anywhere. She's just paying her attorney all this god-awful money because at this point, it's got to be over 100, 130, 140 grand. It's 4 years. Yeah, I know what my bill is, right? So.
Yeah, you just did the long game. Thank God exes are dumb.
This comment right here wins the internet for the day. Carlo DeVito said, ask her boyfriend if he's gay then.
Right? Right?
That's some good reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Would you hazard a guess at how much money you've spent? I don't know if you want to say that on air, but
140, 150. It's up there. Yeah.
It's
I mean, last time I looked at a bill, you know what I mean? A lot of money, man. You know, what's really sad is, as angry as I get, you know, and sometimes I think, you know, what am I going to do? Not fight for my kid?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. You know, you guys know, right? I mean, I'm not directing that toward you, but that's just
no amount of money.
Like, what do you do? You don't, especially when you know 100% what's going on. I mean, I'm not an idiot. You know what I mean? I've seen this from day one, you know, the lies, the false accusations. I mean, they've basically set up this transgender as the silver bullet of family court now. And we all know that, right? Because in the psychological evaluation, did they hint towards, you know, sexual abuse? They did. My dad puts his hand on my back, and I mean, even when my brother read that, he goes, dude, walk away now. Just stop. And I'm like, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up this easy because these are all lies. You know what I mean?
Right.
The sad part is how the court doesn't let you even, you know, fight for yourself, right? Like, how do you not stand up for your own, you know, your own rights? It's insane. You know, they can say all these things about you, but you have no way of speaking. I mean, the minute you speak up in court, they just shut you down. I mean, people have said to me, you need a better lawyer. No, my lawyer's awesome. But you know what? They won't let him speak. And the minute he makes sense, stop talking. You know, I hate to sound like conspiracy theory or whatever. You know, I remember the first time I brought up Title 4D, my attorney's like, "Ooh, dude." And I'm like, "What?
Yeah, don't talk about that.
Don't talk about that. You don't want to be that. No, don't say that." I'm like, "Don't say that. It's the facts, right?"
Yeah.
I don't know. At the end of the day, guys, it's the heartbreak is just watching my daughter go through this, because I know, we've had a few close moments. She hasn't said I love you in 4 years. She said it twice. One time, I got her a gig. There's a huge band here in Chicago. Everybody knows they play all over the place, right? Cover band, and I'm good friends with them, and they're bring your daughter. You know what I mean? So they see all the videos I post of her singing, and she got up on stage, sang in front of a crap load of people. She was nervous as all hell. And I told her, I said, sweetheart, I would not make you do something that I didn't believe in you and I didn't think you can do. And man, she killed it, man. Killed it. And they were so awesome. They gave her the stage, And that night I dropped her off. She goes, Dad, I've always wanted to be on stage and see people singing back, and I love you. I was like, okay, maybe we're turning a page, but she goes home, and just like my therapist says, you take a step forward, she goes back into that environment, that's 10 steps back, And then the next time she said I love you is when my mother-in-law passed. My daughter went to see her, and I said to her, I say, hey, thanks, you didn't have to do that, and life is short, and I said, I love you, Dad, and I got on I love you, and that was last year. So it's odd, I know she's still in there, as parents, as fathers, guys, right? You see your kid and you know when something's off, when something's going on. And I know, because we were always very close. The sad part, again, like I said, is just that they use this whole thing. They even put, and I forgot to mention this is going to make someone else's jaw drop. I had a court order put in, cannot take her to church or I go to jail. Yeah. You know why? Because now she's atheist. All of a sudden.
Or Sodom and Gomorrah.
Well, you know why that is, though. So now I can't go to church. So, because then what they did is when they put that court order in, they switched my days, and I was only able to see my daughter on the Sundays. And I'm like,
shocker. How did that happen?
Shocker, right?
Convenience.
That's what $140,000 gets you in family court.
Yes, that's what it is. So if anything that this conversation that anybody on here gets, this is what you're in for. Not to scare people, not to. It's hard to look at a situation where you look at it and say, man, I've got all the proof. I've got all the text messages. I also, now when Illinois, and I had, looked up the law. We all do that, right? We're Googling the law. I found out that, here you can only record the person if they, agree to the recording.
Yeah.
But if you're in a restaurant or in a public place, you may record.
Open.
All right. So I invited Mom out for some pie and coffee because we had exchanged an email about the School of Rock stuff. And I'm like, hey, I'm like, see how easy that was? We should just talk about this. And this was early on, 7 months in, probably about 8 months in. She agreed. So took my phone, recorded a conversation. And I said, what do you want from me? Go away. I want you to walk away. You can see her when I tell you you can. I said,
power.
It's never going to, it's all about power. I'm like, it's never going to happen. Oh yeah.
No, courts allowed this crap.
I handed that in. Nobody listened to it. Nobody cares.
No, they don't.
No. She called the Guardian an effing Jew. But I'm the racist. Yep. I sent the Guardian screenshots because remember, this was prior to high school. So we were choosing what high school she's going to go to, this and that. And she had made a comment about the F and N's, at this school or that school. And I sent that. And you could see me type, hey, man, I'm not getting into this conversation with you because I don't think that way. I sent that to the Guardian. He said to my attorney, it's a shame that Dad has to point out that Mom is racist too. I'm like, you have nothing that I've ever said. It's just amazing, man. It's amazing.
You're already the bad guy.
I'm already the bad guy, even though I have friends, like I said, from every walk of life and whatever. People have written letters. Doesn't matter. It just the one thing I do have to say to everybody is the Guardian ad litem holds the key, and it's the sad thing to say, man.
I was going to ask you, I mean, now being in this for so many years, you walked in wide-eyed and oh, law is going to prevail, and this. But now that you've been in the trenches, what would be like some bullet point advice that you would give? Because it sounds like this is becoming the new silver bullet. The other one was abuse. Now it's the transgender thing is becoming the new easy silver bullet.
So
what would you tell people?
My advice, what I found that works is do not let up about talking to doctors and therapists. Do not, because there are some out there that are they're on your side. You know what I mean?
How do you vet them?
Well, that's the tough part.
That's because
I've come to the point where I just flat out ask now. Okay. I just flat out ask. And if it turns into an argument, whatever, I'm like, have you read Abigail Schreier? Have you read Miriam Grossman? I mean, those things, the minute they tell you that, no, that the puberty blockers are the answer and this is no, it's not. If you can't have a debate,
puberty is the answer.
Right. Puberty is the end. That's what Jeff said. Puberty is the answer to all of this. Let them go through puberty.
That's why they want to block it.
That's why they want to block it. Right.
Majority of kids, once they go through puberty, this isn't a thing anymore.
You have to be, I learned this back when I was going through my cancer treatment, and I learned it from someone else who had cancer, because when you get that C word, it's like, holy crap, right?
Yeah.
You have to be your own advocate, man. You have to ask doctors, and if you don't agree with them, you don't agree with them. You got to go with your gut. So I say right now, the way the climate is with all of this, just flat out ask. Don't even be afraid. I do it now. I don't care. I talked to her family doctor. I went there. I handed her my court order. I have 50% decision making on everything. There's no transgender, there's no hormones, there's nothing. I have this is the court order. Here are all the documents from the last doctor, showing you have to prove. What I've learned is just this is her normal behavior. This is what keeps happening, right? This is consistent.
Pattern.
So it's a pattern. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Here's the pattern. So it was amazing, because when I went just today to the doctor's office, I sat back, and wouldn't you know it? What do you think's happening? My daughter's losing weight again. Oh yeah, 100%. She's losing weight again. And the doctor, thank God I had that conversation with her, and I gave her all the paperwork that proved that her mother did not play along with this. She didn't agree about the eating disorder. She doesn't do anything about helping her eat. She doesn't do any of that. She's not parenting, right?
Right.
There's a fine line of being your kid's friend and being a parent. I get it.
100%. I wanted to get to this comment because I think it really goes to what he's saying. Matthew Dotson said that's body dysmorphia, not transgenderism, which is a learned maladaptation. Children's sexual identities follow a predictable pattern beginning at age 3. If he didn't express visible signs prior to puberty, it is a learned behavior.
100%.
Appreciate you for sharing that, man, because I think that's spot on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for saying that, because that's something I forgot to say. That's 100% true. Now, one of the funny things, and I just want to jump back to what is a woman. And man, it's going to kill me because I forget her name. So there's a woman in that documentary that's from Chicago. Jeanette is her name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she lost her daughter because her husband's wife was a therapist, psychiatrist, whatever it was. And this woman is a Democrat, she's a feminist. I mean, hardcore, right?
Right.
She lost her daughter to this whole transgender thing. She can't see her daughter at all anymore. All she could do was write her letters. And I don't know if you guys remember that story, but here's how it comes full circle with me. I was reaching out, and again, nobody wanted to talk to me. I was reaching out to support groups, different, I emailed Matt Walsh. I mean, everyone I could to get the story out. Like, I can't believe this is happening, that nobody is, because I think
nobody will touch it.
Nobody will touch it. But I think the biggest problem that we have as men, actually, is that as soon as we're silenced and no one's listening to you, it's like you're screaming in this, void of like, look, please help me. This is what's happening. And it's not because of anything other than you're watching your kids suffer. I got an email back from this organization, and this woman, Jeanette, ran the organization. Boom, we're on the phone for 2 hours. And wouldn't you guess, my psychological evaluator was her psychological evaluator. We both
Shocking.
like, or you got to be kidding me. And that's what, like, I was like, this is it, man. This is the setup, you know? So
Right.
what chance did I have? Look at me. Am I, I'm the guy with the beard, right? Do you think I was going to get a win out of that psychological evaluator if this woman didn't? No way, man. So it doesn't just happen to us guys, man. It's happening to women out there. It's who I unfortunately, like Eric said, it's the silver bullet, but it's whoever gets there first.
Well, a lot of times, look, the evaluators got incentive too, because if you went through that the first time, I mean, they've made their money, they're done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times that these things get ordered again. When there's incentive and there's money that can be made, there's going to be corruption. And unfortunately, family court is completely full of it. And it's not just family court, it's our legal system altogether, dude. I mean, the things that we're seeing on the news right now, it should blow anybody's mind. But Michael Keller on here said, Dad Talk Today, can't the guardian be reported to CPS? I mean, malnutrition, coercion, manipulation, false allegations, provable false, and more. Unfortunately, a lot of these actors in these family courts, man, they're kind of immune to this stuff.
They're protected. So I looked into that. I looked, because I told my attorney, I said, I'm going to make it my life's work to disbar this guy. You cannot touch them.
Nope.
You can't. If I stood up in court and said he lied, I'm in contempt, I can go to jail.
Yep. Don't they have immunity though?
They do.
Okay, they have full immunity.
They have full immunity. Even their bill, like, this guy, whatever he's charged, I don't even know what the hell. So phase one was like 10 grand, right? That was phase one of his bill. And then he was released. But when my daughter almost died and I brought all that information to the judge was, I'm not reading this. I'm appointing him again. What? So she appoints this guy. So my attorney fought, no way. We got to get a different guy. This guy's no good. Do you think I'm going to have another, guardian ad litem for this poor little girl? Little girl. Oh, really? Well, anyway, I digress. So this guy comes back into the picture. So I got to show up at his office with more money, right? To go pay this guy. And this is where I don't even know. I should be in jail. The guy sat there. My wife and I sat there, wrote him the check. And I was pacing back and forth the night before. I had I'm like, I told him I will be there, but I want an hour of your time. I'm paying you. And I want an hour of your time for you to hear me out about what's going on here. Because remember, I never talked to this guy other than 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Right. The other time I ever met him is when we went to court in person, because it was always on Zoom, in person to do the agreement. And the only thing he said to me was, "Oh, your beard sure got a lot more whiter since the first time this case started." In my head, his hand was right here. His head was right here, and I was smashing him again. But I'm trying to walk with Christ, right? So I'm trying to be good. God's still working on me. So anyway, but I went to his office. We sat there. I'm trying to give him my, here's my thoughts. Here's what's going on. My daughter almost died. Blah blah. Your daughter doesn't like you. And you just need to deal with that. I have a better relationship with your daughter than you do. She calls, texts me all the time. Looked at my wife. You'll never be her mother. Oh my God, dude. If I was in my 20s, I'd have been over that table. No lie, hand to God. Sorry, but but I had to keep it together. And I'm just like in disbelief of what I'm hearing. And that's when he kind of pushed it back out there, how liberal he is and this. I'm like, dude, I don't care if you voted for who you vote. I'm trying to save my daughter here. And that was it. I had to pay this guy to insult me and then further continue to screw everything up. And, even to this day, the last court date we went to, he reached out to both attorneys and said that my daughter called him with some very, very disturbing information. So he stood up in court and he said that at the last doctor's appointment, that he had to leave the room, and I started screaming at the mother and this and that, whatever. And I just started laughing because obviously you guys know where this is going. It was the other way around, right? That's the pattern, right? So the judge looked at me and I told her what really happened. Of course, okay, well, she looked at the guardian and said, you have to call the doctor now and find out what really happened. And of course, when I talked to the doctor, I told her, she laughed. She goes, that's not what happened. I said, I know it's not what happened. So he's supposed to call you. Let's see if he calls you and what happens. Because every time he's supposed to call a doctor or call a therapist or try to get some report in, he never does. Or he comes back and lies about it.
Do you think it's planned incompetence?
I just think that he just doesn't like me. I mean,
Well, he's using his position to push his own political agenda.
He is, because he was the one that told my attorney and the judge, whatever, like, well, puberty blockers, you could reverse those and this and that. And I'm like, no. He's pushing his political views. They don't even really know me. And I think that's the most aggravating part. This guy never really sat down and talked to me other than insulting me. Right. He's never visited. I've emailed him. I think he's pissed because I've held him accountable. And like I said before, I've emailed him 22 times in a year and a half, 2 years, and he never responded to me. He responded to me one time and he lied in that response.
Well, anybody that would be okay with these surgeries, man, it's just, I mean, you're talking about these mastectomies where they're cutting off their breasts, they're pumping them full of hormones. And then, me and Jeff was talking about this last week. For the boys, they're giving them Lupron, which used to be used to castrate sex offenders. Now that's what they're using to call puberty blockers. It is not reversible. They will probably never have kids. And that's been shown through a lot of the detransitioners that are speaking on, they wanted to come back. There's no going back. I know several of them. And that is a person that is making these type of life altering decisions for kids, and then telling the parents that they are abusive and that they're all these different labels. We are in a very dangerous society right now.
Big time.
And
it is, I don't see an end to it right now. I just think, like I said, I know that was really long winded, but my advice, talk to the doctors, talk to the therapist. Do not just have the nerve to flat out ask, be involved in the school as much as you can. Join a support group with parents that are going through this. Please, you have to. I found a great support group. They are out there. They will vet you because, nut jobs try to get in. So don't be afraid. It's like you got to knock 3-4 times, but they will answer and you will get in. And I'm in a group with mothers, fathers, Jewish people, Christian people, every walks of life it's happening to. It's out there and it's happening to so many people. But like you said, Eric, they're afraid. People are afraid to talk about it. But you have to, like, coming on here today I was afraid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm afraid, your job. I've got, I do my own podcast. I have my own show. I talk more about music and that kind of stuff. But I try to, you guys actually were like my inspiration of putting out a show and talking about fathers' rights and things like that. And I eventually, once my case is completely over, the floodgates will open, and I've already interviewed a few people, musicians and it's happening to so many people, but people are afraid. But if you give them the platform like this, to at least come out here and say, guys, you're not alone, because that's the worst feeling, and that's what kills you. Because, for me, and I know for many other fathers or mothers out there, you're in a relationship and I've got, 2 stepkids and I got a stepson, I have priorities everywhere, all around. Right. And you don't want this to affect your whole family and you become this walking zombie that's depressed and sad, and because your mind is always on this, what I mean? So you have to find that. You got to find the support group. You got to vet the doctors. You got to be in the room. You will find them. They are out there. Do not be afraid to say, sorry, you're not the one. That's all you can do.
I mean, the opposition is going to come. They've censored us for a very long time now.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things that I never stayed silent. I always talked about it, but I was very careful on how I presented it and why. Because like I said, I knew what would happen. At this point in time, I just don't care.
Yeah, same here.
If we can't speak up, man, it's just going to continue to get worse. And everybody that stays silent, you become complicit.
You do.
That's how I feel about it.
And remember this, one of the biggest things too, and I know someone from my support group said, oh, you shouldn't this, your daughter will. No, I want my daughter someday to see that dad fought. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because they will wake up from this, right? Like you said, the puberty is the answer. Once they get through it, they're going to turn back, and maybe they're not going to admit it to you. They're not going to admit it to but they're going to say, the hell was I thinking? You know what I mean?
Right.
This is not who I am. And they get through the whole thing. Right. But you want them to know that you were the one with the sound mind. You were the one that was being the parent. You were the one that was speaking the truth. Because if, like you said, Eric, you're complicit. If you stay quiet, if you lie, if you sit there and just play the game, no, I'm not gonna be the one that's gonna lie.
It's how it got here in the first place.
Mm-hmm. I just wish that I know Jeff talked about the Cass report, right? That's 25-year-long study that's been proven that this does not help the kids. It just doesn't.
Right.
But to me, at the end of the day, I hate to say it this way, but if you're playing along this game with these kids, you're just sick. It's sickening. It really is. Yeah.
I agree.
Jump into the politics of it, but the recent VP, won't mention names unless we bring that up, but his position on transgenderism and if elected, what his plans are. I don't know if you.
This is a guy that put tampons in the boys' restrooms in schools.
Yeah. Just to give an idea of where he leans. He's wanting to pass laws that if the parents don't agree, if the kid comes out and says I'm transgender, and the parents, and this isn't in a divorce situation, this is both parents,
right?
Married, lockstep, whole 9 yards, says ain't happening. They can take your kid away.
Yeah.
They're already doing it in California,
and that's the problem. So my daughter had a friend, close friend of hers, that was going through the same thing, and at her, School Rock, that the owner was just like, hey, you guys hang out together because, maybe you need to talk to each other, whatever. And my wife and I become very, very close friends with this girl's parents, but it was funny because when I first met her, my daughter was like, oh, you're going to meet, insert fake name here. I don't want to give out the name. So, but, Luna, we'll use that, whatever. Oh yeah, you're gonna, and I'm walking over to where she's gonna be, and I'm like, girl, boy, I don't know, because we're not using the name, pronouns or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, girl, okay. So we meet the parents, cool, but they saw everything I was going through, and I said, man, you guys gotta try this or try. They're like, no, we're afraid. We're afraid. Afraid because
too many afraid people.
Yeah, but the real sad part of all of this was, this kid was hanging out a lot more with my daughter, with mom, and mom was alienating that kid from her parents, and actually had the kid call the police on her parents, all kinds of crazy stuff. The parents were writing letters, called the police, told, my ex, hey, you can't be around our daughter, this, that, whatever. So I can't help you there. I can't. So it just shows the level of what you're dealing with somebody that's, it's just unstable. You know what I mean? It's I hate to say that, but again, the patterns, the way you're acting, the way you're parenting, it's just not, and that's what my daughter is around, and that's what frustrates me. And even to this day, I still don't believe in taking kids away from any other parent, man. I mean, as screwed up as you are, I think that screws the kids up a lot more. The kids need both parents, but if one parent's putting a kid in danger, what else can you say?
Sometimes it's the only solution.
Right. It is.
Well, and Pat, I want to throw this up here for you.
Sure.
You ever wondered if, you speaking out
yes.
means anything?
It does. I mean, that's why I said in the beginning of this, don't pray for me. Don't hope this for me. It's for my daughter and for the other people, the other kids out there that are going through this. And I told my wife, I said, when I'm going to do this, I'm doing this because I want to help other parents out there, other fathers, other mothers, because there are moms out there too. They're going through this, and I don't think I would have been able to go through this without the strength and support and I know I've talked to you guys in chat before about how, you know, the church that I was playing in, you know, in the worship team, and that they turned their back on me. You know, it was a lot of, you know,
Yeah, the church.
just play the game, just play the game, just play the game. And, you know, we went probably about 8 months without, you know, just stopped going. Cause I'm like, I just don't feel like, what am I doing here? You know, but I have found, and they're out there, guys, you got to find it. I know you see churches now with the pride flag and this and that, and they're pushing
Six
all of
flags
this
over Jesus.
It's crazy, right? But I have found a church in my community, and I know a lot of the guys from my men's group are watching tonight, and I love you guys. Without them, I probably wouldn't have the strength to speak up, because I found this church. My wife and I started going there. She was like, didn't want to go to a new church. You know, I made her go, and made her sit front row. Pastor is amazing, and he started speaking out against this, and he started talking, and I'm like, you know what, man? It was like God opened up the, you know, the
Floodgates.
the floodgates for me, and said, Pat, no, this, you need to speak. You need to show that people are not alone, because I felt so isolated and alone, that, you know, I was taking it out on my, you know, my other kids, on my wife, and, you know, and my job. I would be working, and, you know, like phased, like I would be phased out. Like, what am I doing? You know, because my mind was always on this and always angry. So I started going to this new church, which is amazing, which I can only go so often, because when I do have my daughter, I can't go, you know, and I don't dare leave her alone at home, because something happens on my watch, game's over, right?
Yeah.
So, but the men's group, you know, guys, find, you know, they're out there. Find people you can talk to. These guys are an amazing bunch of guys. They listen. And I even said too in the beginning, I'm like, I don't want to just keep beating a dead horse, because, you know, sometimes I'll come in a group night and be like, I know you guys don't want to hear this. And I'm like, no, Pat, let it all out, man, because we're all here for you. And that's the key, I think, for any person to be able to do the right thing. Like, you know, start having the guts to speak up at the school. Start having the guts to speak up to the doctors, because don't make them make you feel like you're beneath them, right? You're not, right? You know, I don't have to, somebody said it in a video I saw, I don't have to be the thing to know about the thing, okay? I don't have to be a doctor to know that chopping off healthy breasts is sickening and dangerous, okay? I don't have to be a doctor to know that. I don't have to be a doctor to know that a binder on a perfectly healthy young little girl who's still growing, and obviously still going through problems and gaining and losing, is dangerous, right? I don't need to be a doctor. It's obvious, right? So those are some of the things that I believe everyone should really look for, because you will feel like you're alone.
Everyone's got to stop cowering, and they've got to start fighting.
Yeah.
They got to start speaking out.
You're going to get criticized. You're going to get shot down. People are going to make, you know, whatever it is, but you can't, you know what I mean? And because at the end of the day, the price is too high. It's your child.
Exactly.
That's too high a price for me. Like I said, beat me up, do whatever you want to do to me. I'll get back up again. I've done it. I'm 53 years old, man. I'll keep going, you know, but don't do that to my kid.
Exactly.
All right, Pat, man, I want to thank you so much for having the courage to come on here and talk about this, and for all the support over the years. Guys, make sure that you tune in over the next couple of weeks. I would ask you, please, I don't know what's going on the Facebook. I really could care less for Facebook at this point. Make sure to get over to YouTube, subscribe, and ring the bell so you get notified of when we go live, because the censorship and talking about these type of issues is very real. I promise you. On a page of over 500,000, watch how many people they let tune into this afterwards. Get over to YouTube, ring that notification bell. Next week, I've got Harrison Tinsley coming on. He is the father that was going through this, and he actually just won full custody of his daughter over this issue. And I want people to hear one of the success stories as well. But we're going to continue to press the issue with this, because it's only going to get worse. And just because you're not seeing it right now, I promise you, Pat, this is probably not something you ever.
Never thought that would happen. I know that's what he's going to ask, but he froze.
Yeah.
Not in the-
I like the
No,
faces he makes.
Yeah, it's okay. No, nothing I ever thought. I never. I just thought it was going to be, like I said, a simple 1, 2, 3. I'm going to walk in. Here's all my proof. How can you deny this and get 50% cut, or even a little less, maybe 48? Because I don't care about, child support. Fine. Take the money. Take the 500, 400. Well, I don't care. I want to spend time with my daughter, because to me, it's not about the money. It's about seeing my kid,
Right.
and then having that relationship. But no, that's it, man.
Well, brother, keep us updated, man. And I appreciate you coming on here. And sorry, everybody, I'm having some really bad internet issues.
No, all good. But yeah, I have court again in a couple of weeks. So pray for my daughter. Like I said, don't pray for me, pray for my daughter for the situation. And yeah, definitely. I'll keep you guys updated. Like, I watch the show all the time. I'm always in the comments somewhere, but hopefully when all this at some point wraps up, I can come back on and give you guys an update of where it's going. I've given you guys both an invite on my show, so let me know.
Awesome, man. I can talk some heavy metal.
That's all. Guitars, motorcycles, good stuff. So that's all.
Awesome, man. All right, guys. Everybody, make sure to tune in next week.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Share, and subscribe. Yes.
We'll finish it off. I've watched the show many times. I know how it goes.
Yeah. But the fish, he's actually frozen right there.
Yeah, he really is frozen.
Maybe he'll come out. I would just say, for everybody, thank you for listening. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, get into the Dad Talk Today support group.
Yes.
That's a good place to get into. Ask your questions. And we'll see you next week. I'm going to see if I can't close at least part of that off.
Hey everybody, Eric Carroll here. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. While we fight for you, we would ask for you to please help fight for us. Like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notifications every time we go live. There's also Super Chats, patreon.com/Dad Talk Today, and other ways you can support our channel. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.
Awesome. He's still frozen, though.
It's still showing live.